जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तरशत श्री श्रीमद् अभय चरणारविंद His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakacarya Ashtottrishata Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagwan ki jai. Shri Shri Gaurnitai ki jai. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga Nitai Gaur Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nashta Prayeshva Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. Thank you and welcome everyone to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. So today we are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 33 and text number 27. Nityaruda Samadhitvat Nityaruda Samadhitvat Pravritta guna brahma Vritta guna Paravritta guna brahma Nasasmara tadatmanam Nasasmara tadatmanam Swapne drishtam ivotitaha Swapne drishtam ivotitaha Nityaruda samadhitvat Paravritta guna brahma Nasasmara tadatmanam Swapne drishtam ivotitaha Nityaruda samadhitvat Vaishnavis. Let's look at the word-to-word meaning. Nitya, eternal. Arudha, situated in. Samadhitvat, from trance. Paravritta, freed from. Guna, of the modes of material nature. Brahma, illusion. Nasasmara, she did not remember. Tada, then. Atmanam, her material body. Swapne, in a dream. Drishtam, seen. Eva, just as. Utitaha, one who has arisen. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Situated in eternal trance and freed from illusion impelled by the modes of material nature, she forgot her material body, just as one forgets his different bodies in a dream. Purport. A great Vaishnava said that he who has no remembrance of his body is not bound to material existence. As long as we are conscious of our bodily existence, it is to be understood that we are living conditionally under the three modes of material nature. When one forgets his bodily existence, his conditional material life is over. This forgetfulness is actually possible when we engage our senses in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. In the conditional state, one engages his senses as a member of a family or as a member of a society or country. But when one forgets all such membership in material circumstances and realizes that he is an eternal servant of the Supreme Lord, that is actual forgetfulness of material existence. This forgetfulness actually occurs when one renders service unto the Lord. A devotee no longer works with the body for sense gratification, with family, society, country, humanity, and so on. He simply works for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. That is perfect Krishna consciousness. A devotee always merges in transcendental happiness, and therefore he has no experience of material distresses. This transcendental happiness is called eternal bliss. According to the opinion of devotees, constant remembrance of the Supreme Lord is called samadhi or trance. If one is constantly in trance, there is no possibility of his being attacked or even touched by the modes of material nature. As soon as one is freed from the contamination of the three material modes, he no longer has to take birth to transmigrate from one form to another in this material world. Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Let's do Mangalacharan. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Ena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Ena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। भूते महद्भिर्ययिमा पुरो विभो निर्मायशेते यदमोषु पुरुषा भुङ्क्ते गुणांशो दश षोडशात्मका सोऽलङ्कृशिष्ट भगवान् वचांसि मे। श्रीकृष्ण शरणं शरणागतं कथा अमृतं सतत पिबतं भक्ति वेदान्त मार्गपङ्क्तनं सर्वलोकऋषिदेवजन प्रसन्नं सर्वलोकऋषिदेवजन प्रसन्नम्। Hare Krishna. Welcome again to this morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. So let's just read the translation once again of today's verse. Situated in eternal trance and freed from illusion, impelled by the modes of material nature, she forgot her material body, just as one forgets his different bodies in a dream. So, we have been hearing the conversation between Kapila Muni and Mother Devahuti. And after receiving all the beautiful instructions from Kapila Muni, now when Kapila Muni has left his mother, now she is left all alone by herself in her ashram. And we were seeing in a few verses before how Kartama Muni, her husband, had created this beautiful house for her, which was decorated with flowers and which looked like a flower crown on the river Saraswati. So in this beautiful setting, now Mother Devahuti is completely immersed in remembering Lord Vishnu. So following the instructions of her son Kapila, she knows who is the Supreme Lord himself, she is consciously dedicating her mind completely to remembering Krishna. And that is what is called as Nityarodha Samadhitvat, eternal trance. So Srila Prabhupada is explaining to us in the purport that what is this Samadhi? It is just forgetting the material body, yes, and that equates to constant remembrance of Krishna. So this constant remembrance of Krishna, when that happens, then Srila Prabhupada is saying that one can forget one's material body. So in the previous verses we saw Bhakti Pravaha Yogena vairagyena baliyasa yuktanushtana jatena jnanena brahmahetuna vishuddhena tadatmanam atmana vishvatomukham svanubhutya tirobhutha maya gunavisheshanam. So Mother Devahuti did her devotional service with such serious intensity. So in this verse we are saying she did so with serious engagement in devotional service. And because she was so strong in renunciation, she accepted only the necessities of the body. So Mother Devahuti was so renounced that she only accepted what was required to keep her body and soul together. She did not indulge in any more extravaganza or in any more kind of luxurious life. Now all that she had already experienced. Kardama Muni had given her the best of what one can get in one's life. He took her around the whole universe and they enjoyed so much that after all that, now when Mother Devahuti went through also a dip down in her life, when she felt that, oh, my husband has left, what will I do now? I'm just, completely lost in this material suffering. After passing through all that phase, then when Kapila Muni has enlightened her with the knowledge of bhakti, now when she has really taken that to her heart, and when she immersed herself in remembering the Lord by practicing her bhakti intensely, she became situated in knowledge due to realization of the absolute truth. Her heart became purified. She became fully absorbed in meditation upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and all misgivings due to the modes of material nature disappeared. So, when one is completely situated in remembering Sri Krishna 24/7, then the modes of material nature cannot affect a person. Now, this is very easily said than done, given that all of us are so conditioned. We are trapped within this material body that has been given to us due to our previous karmas. Nevertheless, this human body is the perfect vehicle to realize Krishna with all our heart. So we should be grateful that we've received this human body, which we can use as an instrument to serve Krishna. In so many lifetimes, so many different bodies that we may have had, there was no possibility for us to think about Krishna. For example, we may have been in the body of a crow or some animal or a plant or whatever. And in those bodies, we did not have the chance to remember Krishna. But somehow, by the mercy of the Lord, through some pious credits that we may have done in our previous lives, we've now received this human form. And in this human form, when we try and when we practice bhakti, when we try to immerse ourselves in serving Shri Radha Gopinath, then what happens? It is possible for us to get freed from the three modes of material nature, which is sattva, gunas, rajas. Sattva, Rajas and Tamaguna, when all these are just keeping us entrapped like a little puppet. We just dance in the hands of these modes. Suddenly our Sattva Guna is high, and then we feel, yes, I want to do more, I'm all happy. Then suddenly the mode of passion arises, and then all these desires and everything, it takes over, and then suddenly we are overcome by ignorance, and then we feel all sleepy, or we feel like completely down in our bhakti. Nevertheless, Srila Prabhupada is giving us the hope that this nityaruda samadhitvat, that is to become situated in eternal trance, is possible when one constantly remembers Krishna. So in today's verse, this is the key point, nityaruda samadhitvat, that is to be situated in eternal trance of remembering Shri Krishna. And when that happens, automatically one forgets one's material body. So we'll try to reflect on these points today. So does it mean that, we forget our material body, means that we just neglect our body? That we just say, I'm not this body, so I don't have to look after it, I don't have to care for it. Now, that is not what it means. So Srila Prabhupada says that when a person is out of the material body, naturally one is freed. But as long as our soul is still present, encapsulated within this material body, then we have to look after the needs of the body to keep our body and soul together. So what that means is that we are not trying to neglect and reject our material body, but instead we are trying to use our body in the service of Krishna. So by doing that, what happens? This forgetfulness is possible. So Srila Prabhupada says that in one of the verses earlier, I just want to go back to that. Yes, so in chapter 12 in Bhagavad Gita, where Shri Krishna says, Maya Veshya Mano Ye Mam Nitya Yukta Upasate Shraddhaya Parayopetas Te Me Yuktotama Mataha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, those who fix their minds on my personal form and are always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be most perfect. And in the purport to this verse, Srila Prabhupada is saying, for one in Krishna consciousness, there are no material activities because everything is done for Krishna. So even though one has a body and one is looking after the needs of the body just to keep it surviving, because we are completely engaged in serving Krishna, what happens? Our activities become completely spiritual. So they are no longer just material. So Srila Prabhupada says, a pure devotee is constantly engaged. Sometimes he is chanting. Sometimes he hears or reads books about Krishna. Or sometimes he cooks prasadam or goes to the marketplace to purchase something for Krishna. Or sometimes he washes the temple or the dishes. Whatever he does, He does not let a single moment pass without devoting his activities to Krishna. And such action is in full samadhi. So this is what Srila Prabhupada is saying. That just by simply dedicating all our activities for Krishna, we can be in samadhi. So samadhi does not necessarily mean just closing our eyes, sitting, and I'm in trance. So that's not exactly what it translates into for us as devotees, for us as practicing sadhakas. So for us, simply serving Krishna through our day-to-day activities. So we begin our day with chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So simply by chanting, what are we doing? We are making a friendship with Krishna in our mind. So we are directing our mind to think about Krishna. So it is said that, we know this analogy of how a body is compared to a chariot. And the chariot has 5 horses, which are the senses. So there is a comparison. So which depicts our senses. Then the reins of the horses, that is our mind. So the reins can pull us in different directions as the senses want to go here and there towards different objects. But then what does the chariot driver do? He pulls the reins in such a way so that the chariot can go towards the correct destination. So who is this chariot driver? The intelligence. So by using our intelligence, when we direct our mind to pull our senses inward, and then when we try to direct our body towards Krishna, then what happens? The soul, that is the passenger who is sitting on the chariot, is all blissful and happy and cheerful in knowing that we are traveling towards Krishna. So why do people go through sufferings? Because they have forgotten Krishna. Now, when we direct this mind, when we channelize our thoughts, when we channelize our desires towards pleasing Krishna, then what happens? One is naturally freed from all material sufferings and anxieties. So there's this beautiful verse in Katha Upanishad that describes this chariot of the body. It says, Atmanam ratinam vidhi shariram ratham evatu buddhim tu saradhim vidhi mana pragraham evacha indriyani hayan ahur Vishayamsteshu gocharan Atmendriya mano yuktam Bhoktetyahur manishinaha. So, from this verse, we can see that how the soul who is situated within the body can be situated in trance when we direct our mind, when we direct our body in the service of Krishna, when we try to please Krishna's senses. So that's what Srila Prabhupada is also telling us in today's purport, that when we engage our senses in the service of Krishna. And who's the best example for that, which we very often hear of? Sorry? Who is the example for engaging his senses in the service of Krishna? Ambarish Maharaj. So even though we hear about it so many times, it is still very, very pleasing to the heart to simply meditate on how Ambarish Maharaj served the Supreme Lord. Savai mana Krishna padara vindayor vachamsi vaikunta gunanu varnane karau harir mandiramarjanadishu shrutim chakara-achyuta satkatodaye Mukundalingala darshane drishau tatpratyagatra sparshenga sangamam Granam cha tatpada saroja saurabhe Shrimat tulasya rasanam tadarpite Padau hare kshetra padanusarpane Shiro rishikesha padabhivandane Kamam chadasye natu kama kamyaya Yatottama shloka janashrayarati. So Sabai Mana Krishna, his mind was constantly fixed at the lotus feet of Krishna. Padara Vindayor, Vachamsi Vaikunta Gunanu Varnane. He was always using his sense of speech, his tongue, his words to glorify Krishna, to taste Krishna Prasadha. Savai mana Krishna padaravindayor vachamsi vaikunta gunanu varnane, to describe the qualities of Krishna. Then Karau, with his hands, he was always cleaning the temple of Krishna. Karau harer mandiramarjanadishu. Shrutim chakara shruta satkatodaye. He used his sense of hearing always to hear Krishna Katha, to hear Krishna's glories, to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, to hear from Bhagavad Gita. And then he used his Karo Hare Mandira Marjanadishu Shrutim Chakara Shruta Kathodaye Mukundalingalaya Darshane Drishau. So he used his sense of vision, his eyes, to always see the beautiful form of Shri Radha Gopinath, to see the beautiful form of Krishna, from his lotus feet to his beautiful legs, to his beautiful waist that is adorned with lovely ornaments, his beautiful arms that is holding the lovely flute in his hand, his shoulders, his neck that is decorated with Vaijayanti Mala, with beautiful garlands, and then his lovely smile on his beautiful face, his sharp nose, his lotus petal-like eyes, his pomegranate flowers-like ears, and then his earrings, his curly locks of hair, his mirror-like cheeks, his beautiful peacock feather. So when we meditate on the form of Krishna like this, that is the perfection for our eyes. So that is the perfection of using our eyes in the service of Krishna. So then what happens? Naturally, our desire for all other material things will vanish. We don't have to do a separate endeavor for that. And then what did Ambarish Maharaj do? He would smell the flowers, the tulasi that was offered to Krishna. That way his sense of smelling was purified. That way he engaged his sense of his nose in serving Krishna. And then his body, he would bow down to Krishna, and by touching the bodies of devotees. So like this, he used his entire body in the service of Krishna. And then his thoughts always in remembering about Krishna. So simply by doing this, we are engaging our senses in serving Krishna. So when we do that, we don't have to separately endeavor to forget our material body. So that forgetfulness naturally happens. So then a person, like, okay, we just wear simple clothes, but again, based on kala, according to time, place, circumstance. Now, when we say a person forgets, one's material body, now let's say one has to, for example, to give a personal example, as a performing artist, when you have to put up a big dance performance, or when you have to do a drama, that day we did the Damodar Leela, for the pleasure of Krishna, then how do we use our body? We have to put on costumes, you have to put on makeup, you have to put on a lot of jewelry. Now, that is not for one's personal gratification. One is doing that for the pleasure of Krishna when you are playing that role of being a dancer in this life. And one may be playing the role of Mother Yashoda, one may be playing the role of a gopi, or one may be playing the role of Nrsimhadev. Then what do? We put on the big mask, of Nrsimhadev mask, and then we jump like a lion. Or when one is playing the role of a demon, then we put on demon-like, scary things. So all this, we are putting it on our body as external coverings, but we are using our body in the service of Krishna. So that is the right way to understand these things. So how do one constantly remember Krishna? Is it that easy? So we are hearing that simply by hearing about him, his beauty, his form, his pastimes, and by discussing with each other. So what do we hear? Machita madgata prana bodhayanta parasparam katayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. Simply by discussing with each other the beauty of Krishna, through Srimad Bhagavatam class, for example, when we go back after today's class, we can talk to each other and say, oh, what did I hear in today's class? What was a point that really touched my heart? What do I want to take home? How can I remember Krishna? So like that, when we keep discussing with each other, then this constant remembrance of Krishna again automatically happens. So when we go back home, we can look at a photo of Krishna. We can keep a picture on our phone. We can keep a picture on our laptop. So that constantly, as soon as we put on the laptop, you're seeing Krishna. Or when you open your phone, you're looking at Krishna. So through all this, we are constantly channelizing our mind towards the lotus feet of Krishna. So how does this all begin? By the 9 processes of bhakti, which we all know. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atmanivedhanam. So it all begins with hearing, Shravanam. So when we hear, as we keep hearing, slowly our taste for speaking about Krishna, our taste for singing Krishna's glories, our taste for going to the temple, our taste for taking darshan of Krishna, everything develops one by one, step by step. And ultimately it can lead to Atmanivedanam, which is surrendering oneself completely to the service of Krishna. So in a conversation between Vidura and Maitreya Muni, Vidura says, Sashraddhadhanasya vivardhamana viraktimanyatra karoti pumsaha Hare padanusmriti nirvritasya samasta dukkapyayamashudatte. For one who is anxious to engage constantly in hearing such topics, Krishna Katha gradually increases his indifference towards all other things. So this forgetfulness of material condition that we are in naturally happens. This indifference towards everything else that is outside of Krishna naturally happens. Such constant remembrance of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna by the devotee who has achieved transcendental bliss vanquishes all his miseries without delay. So this detachment and jnana and vairagya, knowledge and detachment, are the 2 byproducts when we simply serve Krishna. But what is the first primary fruit of serving Krishna that we get? What is the first, the most precious thing that we get when we keep serving Krishna? Krishna Bhakti. And what is the most, what does Krishna Bhakti lead to? Love of Krishna. Krishna Prem. So that is the first most important thing that Krishna awards us. When we keep serving Krishna, Krishna Prem, the highest that Srimati Radharani is experiencing, one gets that. But to get that, we go through all this step-by-step process of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, constantly remembering. All this we keep doing, we keep serving. Then this indifference, that is forgetfulness of one's material body. Nothing, I'm not worried about anything. All that, these are all byproducts, the side things that happen. But ultimately what Krishna awards us is his own lotus feet, love for him. That is the sweet little treasure that we are all eagerly craving for. And how is that awarded? Is it so easy? That is why we have to keep practicing bhakti. When we keep practicing the process, then ultimately one day we can dream of and aim that we will be completely purified, and then we can taste the actual Krishna Prem that Srimati Radharani is experiencing. So Srila Prabhupada was saying in today's purport that when we realize that we are eternal servants of Krishna, that is Gopi Bhartu Padakamalayur Dasa Dasanudas, servant of the 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 servant of Krishna, like that, when we keep going with that mood, then what happens? Naturally, this forgetfulness of our material existence will happen. And then one can achieve this Nityaruda Samadhitvat. So, there are just so many things that I have, but so what happens when we keep practicing bhakti and when one is constantly remembering Krishna? Now Arjuna asks in Bhagavad Gita, what does this person look like? This person who has risen above the modes of material nature. So here Arjuna asks, Kairlingai strin gunan etan atito bhavati prabho kim achara katam chaitam strin gunan ativartate. O my dear Lord, by which symptoms is one known who is transcendental to these three modes? What is his behavior, and how does he transcend the modes of nature? So in response to this, Shri Krishna says, Prakasham cha pravrittim cha moham eva cha pandava na dveshti sampravrittani na nivrittani kakshati udasina vadasino gunairyo na vichalyate gunavartanta ityevam yo vitishtati nengate. So there are two more verses. I'll just read the translation, just given the time. So Shri Krishna says about this person who has risen above the three modes, who is situated in Nityaruda Samadhitvat, like Mother Devahuti. What does that person do? O son of Pandu, he who does not hate illumination, attachment and delusion when they are present, or long for them when they disappear, who is unwavering and undisturbed through all these reactions of the material qualities, remaining neutral and transcendental, knowing that the modes alone are active, who is situated in the self and regards alike happiness and distress, who looks upon a lump of earth, a stone, and a piece of gold with an equal eye, who is equal toward the desirable and the undesirable, who is steady, situated equally well in praise and blame, honor and dishonor, who treats alike both friend and enemy, and who has renounced all material activities. Such a person is said to have transcended the modes of nature. And that is what Mother Devahuti has reached at this point. So one becomes completely neutral to everything. Whether it is happiness or distress, it doesn't touch us. I am simply serving Krishna. Okay, happiness comes to me. This is a gift of Krishna. Okay, distress doesn't matter. This is Krishna's mercy for me. He wants me to be more purified. Sometimes we feel separation. And then we feel, oh Krishna, like why is this happening to me? And then we realize that Krishna wants us to experience that so that we can go closer to him. Krishna wants us to experience these emotions through his devotees. And then in honor and dishonor, whatever happens, one day we get praised, one day someone might chastise us, doesn't matter. It is all just, external. Okay, but my soul is untouched by all this. And then we look at gold and a stone. To achieve that, it takes so long. Because when we go on the road and we find a piece of stone and just next to that we find a piece of gold, a golden ring, immediately there will be a shift in our mind, isn't it? Okay, stone, we'll throw it. Gold ring, we'll take it. Yeah, or you might take it and give it to the person to whom it might belong. When one is, at least if somebody is a bit advanced in their spiritual path. If someone is not, then they might just take it, keep it for themselves. Or someone might take and donate it. Or someone might come and give it for Radha Gopinath's service, make some money, donate it to Krishna. So, all these things, we are still under this jurisdiction. But then when we keep serving Krishna, when we have faith in our Shastras, when we try to follow the instructions of Srila Prabhupada, when we try to hear these verses from Srimad Bhagavatam with all our heart, then slowly we can get purified. Because we cannot straight away say that, I'm completely free from all these three modes of material nature. We are not yet at that stage, or at least I can speak for myself, I'm not yet. So we are traveling. We are on a journey of inner calm, of trying to find that peace within, of finding that love for Krishna. So we will conclude with this beautiful verse where we hear that simply by looking at the smiling face of Krishna, Govinda, who's standing on the beautiful ghat of Yamuna, playing the flute, placing it on his newly blossomed twig-like lips. And simply by seeing this beautiful form of Krishna, oh my dear friend, don't look at him, because if you see him, then you will forget everything else. So, are we prepared for that? Are we ready for that? We can ask ourselves in our own heart, see where we are at in our spiritual journey, in our respective spiritual journeys. Nevertheless, have the hope that through sadhu sangha, through hearing from Shastras, by serving devotees, by taking shelter of our Guru, we can also attain this Nityaruda Samadhi of having constant remembrance of Krishna. Smeran bhangi traya parichitan sachi vistirna drishtim vamshinyashtadhara kishalayam ujjvalam chandrakena Govindakyam haritanum itaha keshitirtopakante ma prekshistaha tabayadhi sakhe bandhu sange astirangaha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Jai Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Any questions, comments, corrections? The Smiran Bangitraya? Yes. So, my dear friend, if you are indeed attached to your worldly friends, do not look at the smiling face of Lord Govinda as he stands on the bank of the Yamuna at Keshi Ghata. Casting sidelong glances, he places his flute to his lips, which seem like newly blossomed twigs. His transcendental body, bending in 3 places, appears very bright in the moonlight. Okay? Alright. Anything else? Okay. Hare Krishna.